Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show. It's Thursday, August 14th, 2025. I am Patrick Daugherty, joined by Denny Carter and Kyle Dvorchak. We're going to talk about the latest, the greatest news in the fantasy football world. And then we're going to talk the second half of the show, late round running backs. We were targeting a very essential topic every year in the game we know and love. And, one full of guesswork, one full of flag planting, one full of epic disasters. We hope to have a bit of all three for you when we share some of the later round running backs for targeting. The news, it's big names, guys. But we were talking about before the show, the side effect of teams, not really playing in the preseason, not doing as many fully padded practices in the summer, is that there are a lot fewer injuries. Very good. That gives us less to talk about in August, though, we'll say. But so we're talking about James Cook yet again, contract extended. Talking about Rashee Rice yet again, disciplinary hearing set for September 30th. All the legal eagles we'll at least know the suspension before the season starts. And apparently, yet again, fell for it. Yet again, award. What else? Chris Godwin again. The Chargers backfield again. We need something to happen. We don't need anyone to get hurt. We need a coach to say something crazy about a rookie.
Also, anytime anyone's getting hurt right now, it's mystery injuries. We are not the only injury stuff we've had, the biggest injury stuff has been Joe Mixon, where they're just vaguely throwing out he'll return at some point in the century. We think he's playing football one day again, and the timeline just keeps getting pushed back. We have nothing definitive on that. Stafford's in the snake oil bus or whatever. But we have no clue if he's never playing football
Meat
again.
Freezer.
Yeah, all of this stuff is the least concrete ever, but I guess that's it. Obviously, it's better than dudes just getting hurt all the time, which is we've had summers in the past where that feels like it's what's happening.
Denny, they're tenderizing Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, but it just goes along with it. Like everything else, football training camp has been optimized, and now nothing interesting can ever happen. And
nothing interesting can ever. Jordy Nelson just can't tear his knee for absolutely no reason on an August Saturday.
Walk off. The guy walked off the field.
He did walk off the field.
I'm glad this one's a seminal moment for you guys too, because I was pretty young then, but that's the first I remember where I wasn't texting my friends in our league that we had probably just started a year or two ago.
Yeah,
I'm still in high school. I'm guys, you'll never believe what happened.
But he's fine.
Kyle was such a bad pick that year. Oh man, yeah. I got fooled by that one. It was the first time I ever got fooled, and I have been fooled again.
As Denny knows, Randall Cobb is in the inner ring fell for it again Hall of Fame. Randall Cobb, good approximately 1.5 seasons, and our analytics forebears just could never ever get over Randall Cobb.
We couldn't.
Neither could his quarterback. He was playing for the Jets.
True, yeah. Randall Cobb, a fell for it again, legend. So we don't want injuries to happen. We do want crazy stuff to happen, Denny. I could have sworn I had predicted this would happen on the show, but we couldn't remember. So one of the reasons I was out on Kaleb Johnson is that the second he made a single mistake, Aaron Rodgers would hate him forever. And per Steelers wire, so hopefully this is real. Denny, what's going on with Kaleb and Aaron Rodgers? Aaron Rodgers is a really good guy.
Rodgers is what he is. He also gets really upset if you run one wrong route, as we saw with Mike Williams last year, where Rodgers got up after that game where Mike Williams ran a slightly wrong route that led to a game-sealing interception against the Texans, I believe, on a Thursday night or a Monday. It was a primetime game.
It was a Thursday.
And Rodgers got up in front of the cameras and said, it was Mike Williams' fault. What can I do as the quarterback if my guy can't run the right route? So he will throw you directly under the bus and drive over you 6 to 8 times, depending on how he's feeling.
Ouch.
If you run the wrong route. This is, and so he did this with Kaleb Johnson, apparently. Kaleb Williams, sorry.
Kaleb Johnson.
Kaleb Johnson.
Denny is such a Kaleb Williams hater that he's mid Kaleb Johnson hating and his brain switches to Kaleb Williams.
It really is. I'm having a hard time with this one. But yeah, so he reportedly really dressed down Kaleb Johnson during practice because he ran an incorrect route. And it goes into what Pat has been saying, I think, for weeks now, which is that Aaron Rodgers will decide who plays and who does not play in the Steelers offense. And it does not appear that the rookie back is on the going to play side of the ledger right now.
Thank God John S. Smith, I'm sure he's never run a wrong route, so I'm sure that'll work out.
Well, DK Metcalf is the worst route runner in the NFL.
Yes, that's where, as we've been fascinated with on the show, Geno Smith even. the 22nd best quarterback in the NFL could never stop chewing out DK Metcalf. So sure Rodgers.
Wow. I mean, this is going to blow up in week 1. Let's just be real about it. If this is happening on opening day, these two are going to be screaming at each other on the sideline.
I'm sure Aaron Rodgers will extend DK Metcalf grace.
Well,
I'm sure that the Buffalo Bills will extend James Cook. Guys, it finally happened. One of the longest national nightmares that was also one of the lowest stakes national nightmares. Kind of like you'd see a James Cook update. Yeah, who cares? Like, we'll be back. Like, it doesn't. Oh wow, it was the 17th best running back in fantasy football. I'm really worried about that one. And we were kind of worried. He was in the RB dead zone. He's a really pivotal player this season because will he or won't he regress in the touchdown department? Will he or won't he? Oh, I don't know. Play more than half of the Bills' snaps. Denny Carter, 47.7% last year. Also, too, we're talking about Hall of Fames. This is in the What Would You Say We Learned Here Hall of Fame with months and months and months of talking about James Cook with the most anticlimactic outcome of all time. What would you say we learned here with James Cook's holdout? Any takeaways, Denny?
Never pay attention to these things because they'll always sign, especially a running back with no leverage whatsoever. My question for the Bills, if you're listening, you talk bad about this guy for months, like being like, I don't know what he's doing. Like he's doing his own thing. We have other guys, so it doesn't really matter. And then you give him $48 million.
48's more than a regular apology amount for sure.
Like what? So wait, you love him. That's what you're saying. You're obsessed with him. You see him as a foundational player in the history of the franchise. What's going on here?
What is going on? Why did he not play 50% of the snaps? Like, I know. Can they decide if this guy is good or not?
Have him play.
Adam points out $30 million guaranteed, a number I was wondering. I get that's way more than
I saw that was fake.
Apology.
I saw that was the like rolling guarantees that we get. Right. So like the agent industrial complex has completely co-opted the reporters to just giving the conditional on you being healthy and the team not cutting you at certain points. These are what your guarantees will be over the totality of the contract, but it's not what is guaranteed today. And we get this all the time now where when the details finally come out, we realize X amount was based on incentives and only X amount is guaranteed right now. Like with Sam Darnold, they can cut Sam Darnold 2 weeks after the season, so they have to make a very quick decision, but they can just cut him 2 weeks after the season and he sees nothing of his future earnings because his guarantees are not upfront. All guarantees are all conditional. And that's some of what's happening here. If you factor that in, this contract looks exactly like Josh Jacobs. It's same year, same average value, and probably a similar amount of guarantees. And I guess that's a good thing, right? Because if you got the Josh Jacobs role, you'd be thrilled. Josh Jacobs plays more on passing downs, plays more of the snaps. He plays over half the snaps, which James Cook doesn't. So I guess that's maybe a slight bowl signal, but at the same time, he was this player last year. They could have used him this way last year. I don't really know that I buy that this changes his role all that.
That's kind of what Denny was hinting at too. Just what is going on here? Why? Or did the Bills behave so indifferently? They at no point in the negotiations did they really extend a public olive branch or listen, man, we love you. It's just business. It's just tough. No, we'll get it done. They exactly. We don't care at all. Yeah. And then, Denny, the money they gave him was more than we don't care money.
So I guess I mean really from a fantasy football perspective, I guess this just means pencil him in for his usage from last year, which seems good until you realize he scored 18 touchdowns and ran red hot particularly in the green zone inside the 10-yard line. Or as I've heard it recently referred to, the lower red zone.
Okay, please stop. Don't ever say that on the show again.
It's never been lower.
That phrase can never be repeated on
We can edit that out.
Please edit that out.
Anyway, James Cook. Yeah, so I guess I think he'll be fine is the thing. Where he's going in drafts, he'll just be fine.
Let's be real though. Full transparency for our audience. At no point in any of our drafts will any of the three of us ever once consider clicking.
No, I got
on James Cook.
Right. That's right.
So, I mean, what are we really telling people?
I got auto drafted.
We do need to be upfront.
James Cook the other day, and I threw my phone into the ocean. So
I was going to seriously ask you, your home league, you time out. It's James Cook. Oh. What is your level of despair, 1 to 10?
I mean, you're not giving up on the season.
I'm a 6. I'll put it at a 6.
I'll
7.
only do a 4, although it depends what like website you're using, because some of these websites have the like dead zone type running backs. Their ADPs are so high.
Yeah.
If I get auto to him at pick 40, like I think his DraftKings ADP is climbing up from 40 now. That's about where it was. That's fine. Like that's the point where I actually genuinely feel it's fine. But like on your home site, you get auto to him at 28. Oh man, that's an 8. That's an 8 on the
Yeah, season's over. Season's over. Denny, 1 to 10 despair index. You auto drafted James
6.5. Yeah.
A little higher than me. So James Cook, man, please let us be done talking about this. I say no one's gotten hurt this year. This is the kind of situation where like, all right, we're finally done talking about James Cook, and he suffered a high ankle sprain.
Okay.
So really hoping he can stay out of the news the rest of the summer.
We'll sum it up this way. He got lucky last year. He got lucky.
He did. He's never been good. It's fine.
Just know that.
You know who else has never been good? Rashee Rice. Sorry, no takers on that one. Rashee Rice was really good for 3 games last year. All the best ball bros have extrapolated out his yards per route run from a 3-game sample size. They absolutely loved it. And he wrecked his knee. And, you know,
right, he didn't wreck his knee. Someone else wrecked his knee. They did it to him.
You know, then he's going to get suspended, and all this caused his ADP to skyrocket, apparently. But we thought we had finally put the legal issues behind us with Rashee Rice. But ESPN's Adam Schefter reports his disciplinary hearing is scheduled for September 30th. That is 4 games into the Chiefs season. Like, Kyle, is this setting up a situation where I feel like the nightmare scenario now is, so he has been fully practicing all training camp. So hopefully he doesn't have to be eased into the season. But a lot of times these post-knee guys are kind of eased in. And the way I view this now is he might just be starting to get momentum in week 3 or 4. Then if this hearing is truly not until week 5, he gets a 3 or 4 game suspension. He's just getting momentum. He then loses all momentum. And you just have like a textbook lost season. Is that way too bearish of an outlook on this, Kyle?
Well, I will say, at least as of like a week or 2 ago, he was actually dealing with a groin issue, so he hasn't been practicing all of training camp. I will say, though, my biggest fear when it, like obviously a week ago, it looked like he was going to miss the first 4 or 6 games, was that Xavier Worthy came on really strong at the end of last season, obviously has the Super Bowl blow up, and you're thinking, if he can continue to do just some of that stuff, he can be a number 1 receiver, maybe not a true alpha, you know, the AJ Brown or the Justin Jefferson, but he can be this team's number 1 receiver if they start using him more in those intermediate looks, those short looks, which is really all they have going for them right now. And that's the money zone for Rashee Rice. That is what he does best. And if you give Xavier Worthy a month to establish himself in that role, can Rashee Rice get on the moving train? Can he usurp the player who initially had to usurp him as Xavier Worthy coming in as the deep threat, the first round pick, and plays a role that the Chiefs were trying to revive? And then he just ultimately takes on not exactly the Rashee Rice role, but winning in the same area of the field. At least in this sense, Rashee Rice can go out and establish the fact that he is just better in that role than Xavier Worthy meaningfully. And I think in that aspect, I think it's being underrated. The fact that he could have mid-season come back to a team with a first-round pick from last year popping off in his second season, I don't know what kind of role he comes back to in that case. That's not happening, which is good. But on the other hand, like the reality of the fantasy landscape is that he goes from missing the first 4 weeks, in which I don't think there are any buys in the first 4 weeks. I think they start at week 5 or 6, if I remember correctly. He goes from missing those games in which everyone in your team is presumably healthy unless you drafted someone hurt, and you don't have any bye weeks to contend with. Now he's right in the heat of buys, the heat of injuries, and it just makes it harder to actually find places to get him into your fantasy lineup when you needed him most. So there's a push-pull there. I think you should move him down in your rankings, but the fact that he can potentially beat out Xavier Worthy in week 1 means I think people are going to overrate how bad this is for him just on the that aspect. If you think he misses 8 or 10 games, which some people actually believe that, of course he's just undraftable, obviously. But
Yeah, Kyle, I worry about the fact that there hasn't already been a settlement. Suggests to me they're throwing the book at him, and it's going to be a way longer suspension than any of us feared, Denny.
No, I think you're onto something there. I think the reason this has been pushed into the season is because the NFL is trying to come down really hard on Rashee Rice, and they're doing his side, his people, agents, lawyers, whatever, trying to do what they can to avoid it. But I don't know if there is any avoiding it in the end. I think that possibility for me makes him close to undraftable in the wide receiver 25 range, which is where he's going, especially because, you just look in that range and you see Zay Flowers, you see Devontae Smith. So if you're in the receiver market in that part, it's just take those guys. I do get the upside argument, but honestly, I need this guy's ADP to fall significantly for me to be interested.
I really hadn't considered Kyle's excellent point that actually it's a really good thing that he randomly lucked out and isn't suspended in week 1. Because I was just viewing it as, man, now he's going to have this disjointed, uneven season. There is something to, coming out, establishing himself, that he's still the guy over Xavier Worthy. But I do have a really bad feeling that this means at least a 6-game suspension. Maybe an 8-game.
I agree.
Suspension.
I took it the same way too. That I think his camp is doing everything they can to not get the book thrown at him, and the NFL is dragging this out because that's what they want to happen. And the worst case scenario of all of this is quite literally that he just misses fantasy playoff games. He is a completely undraftable player if you think there's a good chance he misses fantasy playoff games. I still kind of put the most likely outcome at 6, which, as Adam points out, they have their week 10 bye, so we would be back to 11, I believe, but actually 12 if I'm counting correctly. That's fine. You're still not into the fantasy playoffs yet, but if they appeal or it's 8 games versus 6, then you get into the scary zone where this player you spent a lot on and you were counting on him to be a star down the stretch is quite literally a 0 down the stretch. So if we get sort of any more information that kind of confirms all of our sneaking suspicion, the NFL really wants to come down hard on him, at that point he becomes almost undraftable at any price because he doesn't count for the money weeks.
Rashee Rice, Denny, auto draft despair score is 9.37 out of 10.
Yeah, that's analytics, and that's same for me. The flip side of this would be that if Worthy's and Kelsey's ADPs don't react too violently to this news, that they become great picks in the scenario where Rice gets the book thrown at him.
So another situation we thought we were going to be done talking about, we're going to be talking about the rest of the summer. Chris Godwin, I don't know how many more times I can talk about the Chris Godwin. He's hurt. And they drafted a first-round wide receiver. Not really sure what more to say at this point, but the Pewter reports, a longtime Bucks blogs, Scott Reynolds would, quote, be shocked if Chris Godwin does not begin the year on the PUP list. That's 4 games on the shelf, Denny. Emeka Egbuka is currently just around the wide receiver 45. Is Godwin entering the time of the summer where he's just going to plummet and Egbuka is going to maybe skyrocket? What do we tell the folks here?
I would think so. I don't really know why that's not happening, but I guess now it will probably.
I just think with Godwin, everyone is so confused, including me, by the data point that they paid him. It's just why did they do that?
That's right. And that is confusing. And I get that until you kind of recognize that it's a very weird relationship between Chris Godwin and the Bucks. And by weird, I don't mean necessarily bad. I actually mean fantastic.
They kind of look out for him in a way that's unusual. And I wonder if maybe, Denny, there was some residual guilt from getting him injured in that garbage time game.
Yes.
I believe they signed him the last time. Quite literally, this happened. What was it, an ACL, if I remember correctly? But they signed him coming off of the season-ending injury again. So they've had to and have done so, signed him twice coming off of season-ending injuries.
And he passed up much more money.
Correct. Yeah.
That he could have got if he went to New England. There's a lot of a lot of loyalty there between both sides, so that makes sense. So when Godwin returns, and he'll miss at least 4 games if he is put on PUP, I don't know where Egbuka stands in the pecking order at that point, but he'll have a chance for a month maybe in this kind of scenario to really stand out. I do have one stat to throw into the mix of this Chris Godwin situation, which we need more numbers.
We do,
I think, in my opinion.
As long as they're not the upper red zone.
No, right. The lower, upper, mid red zone. So Baker Mayfield, really good at targeting the slot. Last year, he was 8th in adjusted yards per attempt on slot throws. He had the 3rd most yards on slot completions. He wasn't super accurate on those throws, kind of middle of the range there. But that's because a lot of the Tampa offense runs through the slot. So if Emeka Egbuka takes on that role, it could be kind of crazy until Godwin returns, of course.
Is Egbuka a rocket ship for you, Kyle, or is he just it's so hard to find the new things to say about Emeka Egbuka because he's just a guy we just don't know at this point. We know they love him. We know they used a 1st-round pick on him. We know we need week 1 to get here to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, if you can find him in that wide receiver 4 range in your home drafts, that is a complete smash. not to say best ball ADP is gospel, right? But I do think best ball ADP reacts to stuff quicker, and it has already reacted to just the general news of him drawing rave reviews in training camp to the point where on Underdog, he's wide receiver 37. He's almost, by the time you hear this, I think he's in the wide receiver 3 range. He's one spot away as of this morning's ADP. And I do think that especially with like rookies where people are so afraid of like, man, what am I going to do in week 1? I know it's the most meaningless week of the fantasy season, but if I can't start him in week 1, what am I going to do? That type of thinking happens more in redraft and in home leagues, to where like I am really scooping up, as we talk about running backs later, you'll see that I'm really scooping up some of these ambiguous week 1 roles. But at this point with Igbukah, it's not even seemingly that ambiguous. I don't think Godwin has almost any chance to play week 1. I wouldn't put him as likely to play week 2. You'd be lucky to get him in the first 4 weeks because, I mean, at least according to this report, he's almost a lock to go on the PUP list. So to me, now that fear has been assuaged, I think the Underdog price is probably closer to correct than like redraft prices are.
It's an admittedly confusing situation, but one player, Chris Godwin, every indicator is bearish. One player, Emeka Igbukah, every indicator is bullish. Probably it is best to not lose sight of that and just focus on that. And be excited, even though it's a bit risky to take a guy sight unseen who might have a lot of target competition. Chargers offensive coordinator Greg Roman, fantasy managers love him. He's our favorite guy ever. Said Omarion Hampton will rotate with another back in week 1, even if Najee Harris, parentheses I, isn't ready to go. Najee is finally practicing, you guys. I mean, this is what they did last year. This is what Greg Roman did his final few years in Baltimore. It's not what Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh did with Frank Gore. Are we actually worried, though, they're going to put Omarion Hampton in kind of like a Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins type rotation? Is anyone actually buying this?
I don't mind it.
That's 2 no's as far as I can tell.
Yeah. I don't think there was any scenario where they were just going to be like wheels up in week 1 for the rookie. Like we're giving 25 touches.
Because one of them can't see.
I think it's going to take a while. I think it's going to take a little while, especially these coaches for the Chargers are such hardos. Like they're going to make Hampton like earn it, work for it.
With who though? Like who are
but
they?
So yeah, Hassan Haskins, Jarrett, Patterson.
Wait a second,
Monty Badal.
You guys forget Haskins went to Michigan. That's all that matters.
Oh my god,
for Harbaugh.
Or they'll trade for Blake Corum.
Right. So anyway, I don't think that there were many paths to Hampton having a huge week 1, week 2 role. It's going to take time. I'm not worried about this.
Kyle, I mean, we're hoping getting 12 to 14 touches week 1.
I agree that I am not worried about this, but I think that's the case because it's a lie. Because he is going to get all the work in week 1. They're not going to give Hassan Haskins 10 touches in week 1. And we even saw last year that when they did the J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards split, it took them 2 weeks to throw out Gus Edwards. Ultimately, J.K. Dobbins gets hurt and they have to come back to him. But by week 3, they had already scaled his role so tremendously back because as stubborn as they are in signing 2 former Ravens because they, quote, know the system, whatever their excuse was, they at least saw that J.K. Dobbins had something left in the tank. Gus Edwards just maybe never did. It was probably just always a product of playing alongside Lamar Jackson. And now the path is as clear as it gets. And we say that Najee Harris is practicing. He, like, the quote on his quote practicing, this is from Chargers beat reporter Chris Rim. It's not great. On Tuesday, running back Najee Harris ran and participated in drills with the football for the first time since training camp. They had to specify that he's able to hold a football. And he specifically was doing them off to the side with an athletic trainer. Like, I still am not convinced we are seeing him before December. I don't know how you could be. He posted a picture of him on Snapchat where he can't open his eye. Like,
that was a bit concerning.
Yeah. Why did he do that?
I mean, it's the classic. He's trying to like silence the doubters, but instead he's fueling it.
Doubters. Like, you just created 10 trillion more doubters.
You did. The doubters have never been more legion.
Yeah.
By the way, never wrong, only early on Kamani Vidal. Am I right? Am I right?
Man, I was early last year. I was early in every draft.
Never wrong, only early. Kamani Vidal is going to be a star in this league. We're going to talk about some running backs who could be a star in this league if we have anything to say about it in the later rounds of our fantasy football drafts. We'll be right back after this. Tune in to NBC Sports Now for all the biggest stories in sports beginning at 7 a.m. Eastern with PFT Live, followed by the Dan Patrick Show, the Dan Lebitard Show with Stu Gotts, Fantasy Football Happy Hour, and Chris Sims Unbuttoned. The NBC Sports Now channel is available on Peacock, the Roku channel, Samsung TV Plus, and more. Visit NBCSports.com/now for more details.
Stugotz.
I start sweating every time I have to say Stugotz.
I know. Yeah, I can sense it.
I know you can sense it a little bit. You would never know it, but taking it behind the scenes, Denny and Kyle, their trained ears can hear me hesitating when I have to say Stugotz. And one of these centuries, we'll get it down, folks. Late round running backs. They're one of these stories of fantasy every single year. They're really they're like one of the skeleton keys of fantasy.
Yeah.
You got to hit on your late round running backs, especially now that like the elite tier isn't as deep as it used to be. The RB2 tier, this is never as deep as it used to be. It's actually a little bit deeper than it was a few years ago, I'll say. But you have to find late round running back value. In sharp leagues, there's just no such thing as like late round receiver value anymore.
Oh, God.
It's another thing that's made it even more imperative is you got to find late round running backs. Everyone wants them, Denny. No one knows where to find them, though. Where's the first place you're looking when you're trying to draft a late round running back in your 2025 summer redraft leagues?
Folks, you find them at the bottom of the draft. First of all, Pat doesn't understand that part apparently, but no, it's so basically for me as a 0 RB bro, mostly I will look at backfields, more ambiguous backfields to try to get value on guys going in 10th, 12th, 14th round because no one's quite sure how it's going to shake out. Should I start with my first guy, Pat?
You should, Denny. I thought I was throwing to you for one. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I had it muted and I was trying to read a data point, and you threw it back to me, and I picked.
Yeah, I will start with DJ Giddens of the Colts.
No. You're supposed to do the other one.
Well, I was going to say classic ambiguous backfield. No one knows who's the starter in this Colts backfield.
Do the other one. Do the other one first. Yeah. Do Giddens second. Sorry,
Jaydon
we know
Blue of the Cowboys.
There's an ambiguous backfield.
He is that could not be a more ambiguous backfield they have in Dallas. Sometimes it's Miles Sanders taking first team reps somehow. Sometimes it's Javonte Williams, who just looked absolutely cooked last year. And sometimes it's Blue, who, like we said a couple weeks ago on the show, started training camp with not such great reports. There was one person within the organization who was trying to maybe grind an axe or light a fire under him.
Who used to be in the organization, and it was before training camp, not during training camp.
And it seemed to have worked because Schottenheimer and other Dallas coaches have come out and said Jaydon Blue is really impressing us. He's very intense, like he's taking this very seriously. All of the things that sort of counteracted those initial reports on Blue. So that's not something to worry about. He is probably the fastest guy in the NFL outside of Devon Achane, which makes him.
Tyreek Hill does exist.
I should say running back.
Okay.
I should say the fastest running back outside of Achane. Well, and I would say that separates him in a lot of ways. And actually, Schottenheimer mentioned this. It separates him in a lot of ways from a guy like Javonte Williams, who one of the slowest running backs in the league. Miles Sanders, not exactly speedy, right? In his old age relative to running back, like the running back position. Yeah. So this is a bet. Like Jaydon Blue, for me, it's a bet against Javonte. It's a bet against Miles Sanders, and that seems like a pretty good bet to me.
So Kyle, two things. I mean, I have one who's even less of a later round running back than Jaydon Blue, but can we even consider Jaydon Blue like a late round guy at this point? Is he getting too high in the ADP? And would it be accurate to say he's the only Cowboys running back to have any positive reports this summer? We're not necessarily getting negative reports on Javonte and Miles Sanders, but it seemed like the only guy the coaching staff or the press can get excited for is Jaydon Blue. Would you say that's accurate? And how much longer can we even call him a late round running back? Is he going to be getting too high by the end of the month?
Yeah, right now I believe he's dealing with a bone bruise in his heel, if I remember the reports correctly. Not great, but on the other hand, on the other hand, the price has come down. Like we were hitting a fevered pitch of Jaydon Blue is looking good with the backups, and everyone's like, that'll translate to the starters, I'm sure of it. And, to be fair, he ended up getting run with the starters and gets hurt, obviously, but he only goes at pick 145 right now, which to me is fine. Like it's a level of excitement for a player who never dominated touches in college and wasn't a particularly good runner that makes me concerned. But to Denny's point, if the thesis of the play is you can bet on bet against Javonte and Miles Sanders, which, Pat, to your point, the most quote hype I've seen for them is running with the starters, which I guess that's hype. The fact that they're holding off Jaydon Blue and Phil Maffa is positive. but it's not hype. It's almost the status quo for even veterans of their stature versus a guy like Blue. So the fact that you can purely place a bet against two extremely inefficient guys who the Cowboys have very, very little money, or like last year, they didn't spend a ton of money on Zeke. They had a very clear, like, structural desire to get Zeke the ball. They don't have any of that going on. It's not even the same coaching staff in terms of the head coach, at least. They're paying these guys nothing, and they're almost certainly really bad. I want to be a little less concerned with the Jaydon Blue college profile, which frankly just wasn't that good outside of being a good pass catcher, when the bet is so clearly the other guys aren't good. And now that the price is falling to a point where I don't feel like I'm paying an arm and a leg for a guy with not a great college profile, it's my turn to get in on it. So I am starting to draft more Blue now.
Several thoughts I want to share on Jaydon Blue. Kyle, you talk about the college profile that's not looking good from an NFL perspective. I'm beginning to wonder if we just can't focus on the college production and usage profiles the way we used to, because it just seems like the disconnect between the games is larger than ever, where it's not like NFL offenses are necessarily getting more complex, but like the college offenses just get a little more simplistic and scammy every year, where it's all about who can be like the best Lane Kiffin at creating absolutely fake production and numbers. And I just wonder if it doesn't matter as much as it used to. I worry, are the Cowboys like going to make a trade? Because this just still seems like a situation where a trade could be called for, like maybe a Travis Etienne. Because to all of our points, The Athletic reported on Monday that they believe no one has come close to running away with the number one job in the Cowboys backfield. And that he's still like the Occam's razor guy to be excited about, Jaydon Blue, but maybe there's just still not even actually that much to be excited about, Denny.
I was going to say, maybe sort of the point you're getting at is there is not an answer. I mean, you look at what we had last year, Denny and I were both doing this, was we want to get someone in every draft from the Broncos backfield. And ultimately, the Broncos backfield had a ton of opportunities. They're one of the NFL's, like, the league-leading entire backfield in terms of expected fantasy points, because they threw to the running backs a lot, but they still ran the ball, and they ran it pretty well, too, in terms of, like, they were a great blocking team. They just did not have the talent to run the ball. And I don't think Miles Sanders is talented. I don't think it's literally Javonte Williams we're just talking about. I don't think he's talented anymore. Maybe he was one day, but like that's not the world we live in anymore. And Jaydon Blue was not a good prospect. So I think the most likely outcome, frankly, is that none of them are great bets. But the second most likely outcome is very clearly that Jaydon Blue emerges, I think.
Denny, I've gotten Jaydon Blue in many drafts already, including like direly overpaying for him in my salary cap draft the other day. I desperately needed a second running back after going hero RB with Bucky Irving. What are your final thoughts on Jaydon Blue?
I'm guessing week 1, week 2, early in the season is going to be pretty rough for folks who drafted Jaydon Blue. I think
dollar zone.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah.
Come on. Yeah,
look, something is going to be built in your backyard.
You can start. Yeah. I'm giving the guy the contractors from. They've been standing out there. I threatened a lawyer was going to come stop the construction of the dollar zone.
It's too hot to have those guys.
They didn't buy that. They knew you did not have.
No, they were standing there with their shovels. They don't, they don't want to. These are the kind of guys. They didn't want to work hard, but I'm telling them now they got to get going on it. So,
well, yeah. So it's going to be like, oh, Javonte Williams, 85% of the touches, 90% of the snaps. Jaydon Blue not even playing. He's a long-term bet. Also. Once he works his way into the fold, and I believe he will, obviously, or else I wouldn't be talking about him, he has the sort of juice where, he can make a lot happen with like 10 touches in a game, right?
That's what we love, Denny.
Right.
He doesn't need to be like Tony Pollard of yore.
Yeah. So he can break one, and you can feel great about starting him because he's so fast and not necessarily elusive. Actually, his yards before contact was atrocious.
He didn't break long runs in college either, to be clear.
But he might. You never know. So I would just say pump the brakes on being like I'm putting Blue in all my lineups week 1. That's probably getting ahead of ourselves a little.
Hey guys, just really quick, no jackhammers or power saws. All right, come on, I'm trying to podcast. I still have this job for now. Jaydon Blue is trying to take all of our money and jobs from us, but
we could bring the guy who juggles the chainsaws back though. I thought that guy on the show a few weeks ago was pretty talented.
It was pretty talented. The dollar zone contractors are mysteriously gifted. Kyle, Denny talked about one of the guys getting the most steam as late round running backs. You're going to talk about now one of the a guy with an acronym for a name, then apparently he has a really complicated name. Then he has a really simple nickname.
I had the nickname written down. That's the operative point, if anything. There are good stats around Jacory Croskey-Merritt that should make you want to take him as potentially the team's lead back relatively early in the season, given all the training camp hype. But more importantly, Jacory Croskey-Merritt, like kind of a clunky name to say, obviously the hyphenated name, spending a lot of time typing. He goes by Bill. He doesn't go by Bill anything. He just goes by Bill.
And why wouldn't he?
Why would you not? It's so good.
So he's really just Bill Merritt at the end of the day, or I guess Bill Crosky-Merritt.
I wouldn't even do the CM. Like, dude, just call him Bill. Like, even in a formal interview with him, Bill, how was practice today? Like, why would you not do that? He has a really weird college profile. I believe he's a JUCO or an FCS transfer after like 3 years, goes to New Mexico and has what is really an incredible season, rushes for just shy of 1,200 yards, 17 touchdowns on a little under 200 attempts. He ranked top 10 in the country in yards after contact per carry, PFF rushing grade, missed tackles forced per carry, and then he transfers to, I believe it was Arizona. The reason I don't remember is because he played one game for the team. I'm pretty sure it's Arizona. And then like an eligibility snafu prevented him from playing at any point. He then gets an invite to either Senior Bowl or Shrine Bowl. Pretty sure it's Senior Bowl. Looks really good. Then doesn't get exciting draft capital. Frankly, for not playing college football as a senior, a fifth-year senior, getting drafted is a pretty big accomplishment. And then looking good, not just good, but like looking like the star of training camp. Another pretty big accomplishment. And if he had someone ahead of him on the roster who I thought, like, I get that there's some upside to his profile, but I just don't see how he upsets the starter, I would probably not be that excited. This is not that case. It's Brian Robinson, who is fine, but he is completely replacement level. And if they find some juice in the rookie, I do think he could just play his way into not only a part-time role, but the starting running back role. And that's really what I'm looking for, is the combination of a talent-based bet with the ability to just earn your own role when I'm looking at late round running backs. I mean, that was the Bucky Irving thesis last year, was that Rachaad White is just not good enough to hold off a guy with juice. Does Bucky have juice? I don't know. Oh, he does. Oh boy, he does. And it still took it took a month or two for him to get that role, but he was able to play himself into a role. And I think that's what you have with Bill.
Yeah, Denny, thoughts on JCM, where that's just as important as anything Kyle said, is they've made it clear for a long time they're not that into Brian Robinson Jr. They're not that into Austin Eckler. That was a marriage of convenience that it sort of worked, but the Commanders in their dreams find a more explosive back, a more productive back. Do you think it's JCM?
Yeah, I mean, it would be him if he takes over for Brian Robinson, but I'm not
C-Rod erasure, by the way.
Yeah, I guess it is.
I'm fine with erasing him. Get the eraser out.
Yeah, I'm not dismissing Brian Robinson so easily, though. I feel like he's a guy who just does what he's asked to do and doesn't make a ton of mistakes.
He hangs around.
Yeah, right. And so I'm taking JCM as Bill, whatever you want to say, as a late round stash maybe, but it's going to take some doing. Like there are going to have to be things that happen in that Washington backfield for this guy to get a real chance.
Denny's absolutely right. Kyle is absolutely right. We just know that every year, this is not very scientific. Every year there's 2 or 3 backfields where just kind of someone totally unexpected, like very early, takes command of the backfield. And this has all the makings of one of those situations. A lot of times you get all those makings and it doesn't happen because he is a day 3 pick. As Denny said, we might not respect Brian Robinson. Even the coaching staff might not love him, but then when everything's on the line in the game, they know he's going to get 3 yards or whatever. But the Commanders are a situation where a surprise leader could emerge. JCM, a very low risk, potentially very high reward late round flyer. My guy, first guy, we don't have to spend a ton of time on this one, but because it's really not about the player, Denny, it's about the role. And the Dolphins so badly need a caddy to pair with Devin Achane. It didn't work with Raheem Mostert last year. Raheem Mostert stayed healthy yet again, but he just ran out of gas. He's in his 30s. He's past your typical prime age for a running back. Got used up a lot in 2023. But Devin Achane was just miscast in the role they had him in last year. They really need this 1B back. If it's going to happen, it's going to be Jaylen Wright because Alexander Madison landed on injured reserve with a neck injury. But it's Jaylen Wright. It's just not going to happen, Denny. A guy who's not really generating a ton of buzz, I'll say, this summer.
I mean, he was horrific in the preseason game against the Bears. The Dolphins seem like maybe they're going to be a bad running team anyway. So
I thought you were going to say a bad team. Where it's always good when you go viral for getting utterly dominated in joint practices.
I
like
know.
they did with the Lions. Dolphins going completely viral for getting annihilated in their joint Lions practice.
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about like sour vibes, like those vibes. Woof,
dude.
woof,
McDaniel, in Mike McDaniel's defense,
press conferences are normal though, where you don't have the coach talking about you could be dead tomorrow.
I was gonna say, in Mike McDaniel's defense, his press conferences are like a cry for help, where he's basically speaking in code to the rest of the league. Like, listen, man, I'm a coordinator. Like I don't know what any of this stuff is. Like this stuff is stressing me out. Like,
yeah, right.
Like,
he's like that song. This is not my house. This is not my car.
This is. I need out of here, man. Like, is there like an exit in the back? Like, I need out.
Yeah, it's over. So I do think HN can still get there just based on like target volume and just involvement generally with the offense. But I mean, I guess, are you saying that?
I'm just dot connecting a lot with Wright. This needs to be a 2-back backfield. The second back is gone. The potential veteran replacement for the second back who's gone is on IR. Jaylen Wright's the only guy.
So yeah, and I mean he's one HN injury away from being the guy, like the only guy.
Yes,
so
and a very run friendly. I mean, Mike McDaniel, it's all a scam. He's a fraud. Blah blah blah. It's still a very running back friendly system.
It is. And I was actually reading recently that the Dolphins are like an elite rushing team when they run from a spread formation, and they're one of the worst when they're all stacked up in like a predictably run heavy formation with a fullback. You know, because the Dolphins are like one of 3 teams that carry the fullback because it's the Shanahan system. So maybe, I don't know, Mike, if you're listening, maybe don't be so predictable. Maybe run from spread more often. Anyway.
So anyways, we'll put that one to bed for now. Kyle, I'm going to have you go first on round 2 because this was a name. It's going to be very concerning if someone didn't put this name in here. I'm sure he's the ultimate Zoomer player. You're the ultimate Zoomer. I'm sure you can make the case. What do you want to say about the man everyone is talking about in best ball leagues? He may wear a teal jersey.
Bhayshul Tuten, I believe first pick of the 4th round. And it's another spot where I think among the combination of talent and situation for what you have to pay to get him is just about the peak of what you were looking for. Because in college, I mean, he really looked, I kind of thought he had a decent chance to go day 2, and ultimately he did get pretty close to going to day 2 as the top of the 4th round. He looked like a day 2 talent, and he finds himself in a situation where we talk about like never been good all-stars. Like Travis Etienne has just not had the juice since his first, it was technically his 2nd season in the NFL because he tore his ACL, but his first season playing football. He looked really efficient then, and then every time they've tried to scale up his work, he looks dreadfully inefficient. Tank Bigsby is good at what he does, which is like hit home runs and then be very frustrating for a long stretch of time. And hit home runs, then be very frustrating for a long stretch of time. Ultimately, I think that guy has utility in the NFL, but I don't think he's someone who can hold off a player like Tuten, who was the highest backfield dominator in the class, which is just how much of your team's production out, like specifically running back production, do you account for? And it's really important at looking how guys produce in the NFL if they dominate in college, and helps control for situation as well. And then like, oh, well, did they just not have a good backfield? He's actually not that good of an athlete. He's going to go in the 7th round. No, 9.55 RAS relative athletic score, meaning he was a 95th percentile, just above the 95th percentile in terms of overall athleticism at the combine. Elite production profile. He's also a good kick returner and a decent pass catcher. Elite production profile, elite athlete, and finds himself with just 2 scarecrows ahead of him on the roster. Like, these are very passable guys. They have a job, but I don't think they're holding off someone who could be a star. And we saw this last year with Liam Cohen in Tampa Bay, the Bucky Irving example I had. So another one where I don't know if he's good. I think he's good, obviously. I don't know if he's good, though. And I don't know if he passes the guys on his depth chart. But the path to do so is there, and the path is that if he is good, he will do so. And that's the kind of 0 RB bet that I just want to continue making, and the one that crushed last year.
And Denny, it's the kind of situation, too, where Liam Cohen, new coach, new GM, James Gladstone, GM, the first millennial GM, hopefully he's working on his speaking skills, where ETN, not drafted by this group. Even Tank Bigsby, not drafted by this group. One running back that was drafted by this group, Bhayshul Tuten. If anyone's going to get the benefit of the doubt from the group, it's the guy they drafted. And Tuten, the guy where I was trying to not really get aboard the hype train. It's kind of to the point where it'd be a little bit silly not to be. And, you know, the hype train guys fail all the time. But Kyle laid it out perfectly. There's just so many reasons to be excited about this one.
And you don't have to pay a heavy price in redraft leagues. I mean, maybe best ball, it's a little different. But
He's going in the first round real quick. He's actually hopped Bucky Irving in best.
No, he's like he's the only one who I can't get the electoral votes for everyone to just get over their skis on. We're getting over our skis on lots of players. I mean, Pat, I think you pointed out that like Kaleb Johnson, before we ever found out that what if his quarterback hates him and he's not any good? They were like, sure, certainly neither of those things will happen, but we cannot find the groundswell to get any hype around Bhayshul Tuten. I just don't get it. I don't get why this is the one spot best ball dorks have picked to be like, I don't have fun anymore. Actually, I'm an adult. We're not adults.
That's funny. Yeah, no, I mean, Tuten is a great 0 RB target, and it's betting against ETN, who was absolutely horrific last year and the year before to an extent. Bigsby, who before that, Bigsby is a guy. He's a guy who does nothing until he does something, but there's very little in between. Also, look, I don't know what it means. I've tried to interpret it. I don't know. Bigsby had a social media post the other day that was full of weird frowny emojis along with a confused face emoji.
I thought there was a big nose emoji, like a Pinocchio, like someone's
Pinocchio. So here, my
hit him with the Pinocchio. Oh my god!
I'll have to find the tweet, but I'm pretty sure.
My best guess is that the coaches told him, "Look, you have a real shot at RB1," and he never got that shot, and he's not going to get it. So I think things seem to be breaking in a way that where Tuten could be the guy eventually.
I did not know he hit him with the Pinocchio. It's over.
It is. I mean, it feels over.
Tank Bigsby, talk about a guy the Dallas Cowboys should trade for. Talk about a time we need to take a short break. We'll be right back after this. The Premier League is back with a blockbuster weekend live on NBC and streaming on Peacock. It begins Saturday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern when Wolves host Manchester City. Then Sunday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern, Man U takes on Arsenal. Not sure who's on Wolves this year. I need to look very powerfully into that.
Me neither, but I'll look into it.
I just saw Aston Villa play in person, by the way, in St. Louis, Missouri. They came to take on – they had the guts to come take on St. Louis City SC, and they did. They held their own. They won, of course, easily. Denny, who's your second guy? Everyone's been dying to know because you haven't said it yet and then got shouted down immediately. Who's your second guy?
Yeah, no one will guess. It's DJ Giddens of the Colts. I have a lot here, so bear with me. It looks like Giddens is probably on track to get the RB2 role behind Jonathan Taylor, and that's what we're looking for. It's not an ambiguous backfield. Taylor's going to see all the work. We know that, okay? But the question was, is Giddens going to outplay Khalil Herbert and that other guy?
Tyler Goodson still, maybe?
Yes, Tyler Goodson for the RB2 spot. And Herbert played well into the third quarter of their Colts preseason game against Baltimore.
Never been more over.
I feel like that's probably not great, which hurts me because I'm a Khalil Herbert truther from way back. But, that's what we have. I think we have Giddens trending toward the number 2 running back spot. Last year, very efficient as a rusher. 10th in the nation in rushing yards, 21st in rushing attempts. That explains his 6.5 yards per carry in 2024 at Kansas State. Top 20 in yards after contact per rush. Top 10 in breakaway rate. Wasn't a great pass catcher, only targeted on 14% of his routes last year. But he was struggling. He did struggle with drops. He was also struggling with a wrist injury that lasted much of the 2024 season. That seems to have resolved itself. Shane Steichen said recently that Giddens looked, quote, natural when targeted out of the backfield. He's also, importantly, guys, excelled. This is important for a rookie, as you know, excelled in pass protection. We have a rookie who can pass protect. Oh. So I think he's trending toward RB2 in this offense. I'm taking him, I don't know, I want to say in every draft, just as a last pick. I mean, you really don't have to spend anything on this guy.
Kyle, he's one of the highest upside contingency backs, like not even really close, where it's just a much more serious attempt at a backup than the Colts had last year, where they were embarrassingly thin behind Jonathan Taylor, a guy who always gets hurt. I mean, Jonathan Taylor, even last year when he rushed for 1,400 yards, appeared in only 14 games. Yeah. He has not appeared in more than 14 games since 2021. He's appeared in more than 15 games one time ever. Those injuries are just kind of part of the deal with Jonathan Taylor. And Giddens has good 5th-round draft capital. He profiles, too, like as the guy that they would have faith plugging in as the clear lead back. He's kind of a poor man's Jonathan Taylor. And he does require injury ahead of him to be valuable, so it could come to nothing. But DJ Giddens just seems like he checks everything you want in a contingency back, and absolutely textbook 0 RB late round pick.
Yeah, like you said, if you limit it to just contingency backs, I actually do think he is one of the, call it tier 2, like Charbonnet and Algier. We just have such confirmation that they are the tier 1. But if the guys are like, I'm pretty sure you'll be a tier 1 next year, he's on that precipice. And I think that he kind of undersold how good he is as a pass catcher. He's not elite as a pass catcher, but frankly, neither is Jonathan Taylor. But in his second college season, he went 29, 323, and 3. And even in the year after that, 21, 258, and 1. A pretty solid 1.2 career yards per route run. Probably shows more capable than special as a pass catcher. But again, like that's all Jonathan Taylor is. He's good with the ball in his hands, but he's not particularly good as like a route runner out of the backfield or anything. Right. I do think, to Pat's point, he could really replace, in terms of just the overall volume, a lot of what Taylor does. He's not going to be as good of a home run hitter, I assume. Like Taylor's really good at that. But could he go out and get 20 carries and 3 or 4 catches in a game? And could he do it 2 or 3 weeks in a row? I think absolutely. And of course, that's the ultimate contingency bet. It's just take on all the work of the starter, assuming the starter gets a lot of work. In redraft, it's a little bit of a tougher sell because you are just burning a roster spot every single week until the starter goes down. You could be churning that with guys like JCM or Bhayshul Tuten. But like in best ball, I kind of agree. I come away with him in like, I don't know, a third or half of my drafts. And obviously that's a lot higher than 1 out of 12. So
I love DJ Giddens. I got him in a lot of dynasty leagues, and just a guy, again, it is the classic. He's a great process pick. The result can be Jonathan Taylor stays healthy and that DJ Giddens doesn't really do anything. Even though they have actually mixed in their backups a lot behind Jonathan Taylor over the past few years. It's going to be a run-heavy offense because it's Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson. But DJ Giddens needs to be on every roster, I would say, even in 12-team leagues. Like, he should be rostered to begin the year, Denny.
Yeah.
We don't need to spend a ton of time on mine because this guy will be rostered in every league. This one's not hipster enough. But, like, Zach Charbonnet, like, is he the single most valuable, like, later round running back this year? Just the run game commitment is there for the Seahawks.
Really
Kenneth Walker's always injured. Charbonnet proved last year, finally, his spot starts went really, really well last year. He caught a shocking amount of passes, like over 40 passes, I think. Like, that's one of the running back reception totals I'm always most shocked by when I see this. Like, wow, Zach Charbonnet caught 40 passes. Where I did not like drafting Zach Charbonnet the first 2 years he was in the league. This year, I'm like kind of sad if I come away from my drafts without Zach Charbonnet. Am I crazy? Do I have Kenneth Walker derangement syndrome? What do you think, Denny?
The vibes around Walker are terrible right now. Foot every day, foot. He's fine. He's not fine. He's practicing. He might practice next week. We don't know, this and that. I don't like it, especially for a guy who, I don't know, never plays in Ken Walker. Zach Charbonnet is, I think, a fantastic pick at ADP. Even if he rises a little bit, I think he's still fine. I think he's a guy who, unlike, some of the guys we're talking about, Charbonnet strikes me as a guy who's fine for every roster build, right? It doesn't really matter if you're locked in on running backs. You could still go ahead and get this guy just in case things fall apart for Ken Walker. By the way, I am just astounded at how bit committed Mike McDonald is to this run heavy thing, because every time he has a chance, he'll come out and say, we're running the ball. Like, we're never passing, just so you guys know. And I think that's a lot of bit commitment. I recognize it as someone who commits to bits myself.
Denny's committed to the bit of being frozen right now. Our guy,
crisp audio though, which is kind of strange.
Our guy's frozen, but we could hear him. Seems like a really good time to end the show. By the RB 35 to 40 range for Zach Charbonnet. So you're wondering, man, Zach Charbonnet's ADP is rising yet again this year. I wonder if the Rotoworld guys are into him. The answer is we are. This connects a lot of dots. So really, really good stuff from Denny. Really, really good stuff from Kyle. We hope that we got you up to date on some of the later round running backs. Denny is unfrozen real quick. I'm going to add Denny back in real quick because, Denny, what are you working on? Do you have anything being published on the site? Adding him was a catastrophic mistake. He's totally frozen still. Kyle, what do you have going up on the site the next day or two?
Oh my God, I'm traveling, so I'm banking a lot of content. So I'm not 100% sure what is coming out in what order. But at some point in the next week, I have, in conjunction with you and your rankings, tiers for every single position. I believe running back went up, quarterback and tight end are already up. Those are in the online draft guide, which is free. And then wide receiver is probably up next week. Later this week, I will have picks for every single best ball strategy. I didn't tell you what to draft. You want to do some garbage, hyper fragile strategy? I thought about the best way to execute that. You want to take 3 of the crappiest tight ends you can imagine? Buddy, I've got them in there. And I'll probably be recapping preseason at least next week too. We'll see if anyone actually plays in week 3.
Really good stuff. Denny's going to have a lot of good stuff. I have an article called The Fateful 8, where I look at that from rounds 1 through 8, the ADP in each round that has like the widest range of outcomes. So like the people who basically are going to be swinging drafts for either good or ill. I did it last year. I really enjoyed doing it. I'm doing it again this year. So for Denny Carter, who is frozen, for Kyle Dvorchak, I'm Patrick Daugherty. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back on Tuesday.